Hey everybody, Brooks Van Norman here, and today in this interview I'm joined by Josh Allen, CEO and founder of Revenly. Josh, thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you very much, Brooks, for having me.
You bet. Josh has an incredible story, and I can't wait to share it with you guys. And let's get right into it. So Josh, let's start with a little background on yourself. Can you describe Revenly and who you guys help?
Yeah, so we're what we call an inbound collections platform. We work with credit and collections companies. We provide a SaaS platform that helps them digitally engage for their account receivables departments. Uh,
Cool. Now you have a pretty interesting background before you got to the place where you started Revenly. I always found that to be a really intriguing story. Can you share a little bit about how you came to create Revenly?
yeah, absolutely. So I'm kind of a serial entrepreneur where I look and find a problem and try to fix it. So I came from the payments industry, and Revenly was born out of the idea that regardless of what life cycle or stage someone is in their life financially, they treating them the same that through the whole phase leads to essentially better returns for companies that they're paying. And we realized a lot of that life cycle is broken. So we
Yeah.
created something, or set out to create something that was very synonymous across the whole um, billing experience.
Yeah, and you're really changing. I think that's a really key point about what you're doing is you're really changing the experience for the debtor too. Like typically the industry is known as like the credit collections industry, but you've totally changed that and made it more like almost like a friendly experience.
Yeah, people are more responsible than other people give them credit for.
Yeah,
And if you give a really good experience, something that's pleasant, transparent, something they can trust, uh, there is a level of self-service that jumps through the roof. And it's not that people are unreachable. It's just that they want to be reached their own way, in a way that they want. And so, yes, it's a way of kind of giving people back ownership over their own finances, regardless if they're in debt or not. And a lot of them are take that ownership and run with it.
I love that. I love that. Right on. Okay, well, let's start from the beginning. What were you doing to generate sales before we started working together? And what were some of your frustrations with what you were doing there?
So as technologically forward as we are, we still are doing it as old school as you can think. Essentially, a lot of calling, emailing, networking. Especially as a small company, when you have limited budget, you're kind of being scrappy and doing everything you can in the beginning to get the next sale. So we weren't necessarily doing it casting a wide net. We were casting a fishing line,
Yeah,
if you will.
yeah, yeah, got it. And how was that working out for you? What kind of results were you producing with those efforts?
Again, I think you call it ebb and flow, would be a good way to put it. More, it's like step growth, where you would grow and then you plateau and grow again. A lot that's because the time that it took just to find the needle in the haystack.
Yeah, makes sense. So what would you say has been the impact of us working together now that we have been for a little while?
Oh man, tenfold on a few different things. Some expected and a lot unexpected.
Okay.
All positive though.
Okay.
So first off, we've hired more people. I mean, if
Cool.
you're going to talk about like a good impact, things got so busy that we actually had to bring on help. Um, the other thing was it actually expanded our market reach. So my experience was within a certain vertical in a much bigger vertical, and working with you and your company expanded that. And we've now been talking to companies that we may have looked at from a distance
Mhm.
but never approached, and it
Yeah.
brought those in. I would say that that was a very unexpected impact. And at the same time, I spoke with companies that I've tried to reach, and all of a sudden they're responding this way and not that way. So it opened up the channels that we were trying to reach them in.
Yep.
or like the right person. And a lot of networking.
Mm.
A lot of networking came of it. You know, a lot of talking to some person, getting referred to somebody else who was necessary.
Nice. So why do you think that happened? Like, why do you think you were able to reach those accounts that you weren't before, and why do you think that that growth took place?
Well, your system, your coach. There's multiple elements. First, there's Brooks, who's a great coach, um, and I think if we were just to sign up and you were to throw us in the water in the deep end and say go for it, we wouldn't have had as good of results. So
Yeah.
there's you personally. Then there's the system that you coached us in and on, which with from that first contact all the way that email follow up at the very end. I mean, those follow ups and follow there the personal touch, the non salesy approach. Um, I mean, you get a lot of responses that are very personal responses. This is a very personal approach. I think that had a huge impact, very noticeable.
Yeah, and I actually want to talk about that for a minute because you're in an industry that is really kind of ivory tower, right? I mean, you're in finance, you're in collections. People are pretty touchy about, communications with people they don't know. So I'm curious to know if you've had any feedback from, the senior decision makers that you're using the system to reach out to, and just like how the level of conversation is compared to maybe what you were doing before.
I think that so there was a level of transparency, right? Because a lot of it's LinkedIn. So they see
Yep.
your face, they see your profile.
Yep.
They can click through quickly and see exactly what you do, and versus an email where you're basically asking someone, one, to read your email, and two, go look you up online or something, you know,
Yeah.
like all of that extra stuff. So the decision makers that we've reached and the people we've reached, I mean, there's a whole, they're responding and they're knowing what they're responding to
Yep.
immediately. Like there's no ambiguity. So the quality was much better. And there's also timing. You can never reach that many people yourself and expect that it's the right time to reach everybody. So in this, because it was a numbers type game, a lot of the responses are perfect timing. We're looking for something like this.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I didn't hear that as much before as I did now.
Yeah. Yeah, and a lot of that has to do with the buyer persona work that we did as well, too. It'd be great to hear your thoughts on what you think about in terms of, a lot of people just call it marketing, but it's really just alignment, right? Aligning with your audience, but doing it with your profile and with the messaging. What has been your experience now that we've had some time to work together on aligning your market with your message?
Um, well, I've used it outside of the system, so that's good, right? I've used like the messaging and the approach in a lot of ways, in coaching like new employees also. There's no point in going for hey, I'm trying to sell you something, open the door. There's the let's just talk approach thing to network. I think with the alignment, just in the actual experience, I mean, I had one call who I actually have a schedule follow up with tomorrow,
Yeah.
which is great. Their first call, he said straight up, I never answer or respond to people on LinkedIn. But he's like, there was just something, with your message and your profile. He's like, we're in the same industry, enough that I'm interested in it. But I mean, he was pretty adamant, saying how he never, you know, responds. Granted, he made me track him down a couple times after he initially said he wanted to talk, so I had to follow up myself there. But he knew from the outset exactly what we did, and that's why he responded.
Yeah, got it. Well,
Yeah.
that's a great story. Well, let's go back a little bit. Before we started working together, what was it that piqued your interest about working with us?
Um. So I had actually kind of I have a marketing type mentality myself, and a lot of that is you start to say, well, I can generate leads myself. I can doing emailing and this and that. And that's cost efficient. Um, and I had interviewed other agencies for different types of things. And so there was basically, I think the ROI, what I saw could come out of this for the cost, and even at least in this industry, even if it was just one sale, it'll pay for itself in the long run. You know, it's a SaaS program, so it's recurring revenue. You know, the churn rate's very low. So I said, well, it's worth a shot. If there's one, then there's one, and I mean, there's definitely a pipeline. There's not just one. I mean, so I think that there was kind of a mix. Plus, there was like I said, your coaching ability was actually a big part of it also in the beginning. It's not too much, but you definitely don't feel left out in the cold.
Yep.
Like when you were coaching it.
Yeah. Great. Thank you for that feedback. So what was it that you would say has been like the main experience in terms of working with us? What's it been like?
I know it's one of those things that it's a good problem to have type thing. There was this is too much, like there was it was and it was and right, like when you can have too much bad stuff, which is easy to just brush off.
Yep.
But when you have too much good stuff, it was hard to manage. So that was experience. And
You mean leads? Too many leads?
Too many good ones. Yeah. So where it had to be toned, like it had to be, you know, there's no way you could talk to everybody, manage everything or the whole process. So I think hiring not just one person to help me on that, but a second person afterwards to really help with the whole sales cycle was the biggest impacts, because
we actually had to slow it down.
we had to slow it down. We had to slow it down. Yes, we had to slow it down. I had to hire someone specifically to help me manage it part time, just on the booking the meetings alone, let alone taking meetings. Now I include the sales, a second person on like all the follow up calls. Because I'm like, there's some of these that you're gonna have to start taking. I was like, because I have a few that I are great to pursue. I was like, but we got to split this work up. So that's the really good part about it all, and it opened my eyes. It's like what continuing with it can actually do.
Yeah, and we're only in the organic phase right now. We haven't even started even talking about paid acquisition, because we're still getting all of that data together for your buyer persona so that we can own that market when we do go to paid and demolish your competitors. So I'm looking forward to seeing more people get hired at Revenly as well.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, it's great when someone responds and connects and says, hey, yeah, I've actually seen you guys in the past.
Yeah.
But I do know that there's still a ton out there now that the LinkedIn network has grown so much.
Yep.
And keep in mind, my profile before this for almost 8-9 years had one word on it the whole time. So this is a much different profile for me. But yes, there's a huge, you know, when I post something like our new hire on LinkedIn, you know, there's a whole bunch of people interacting with it who I wouldn't have done that before. So that's, again, in itself. So you kind of see the organic results that way too.
Yeah, the profile is a big part of it. I mean, we've talked about that, where people really just have to stop looking at their LinkedIn profile as a digital resume with the historical entries of what they've done up until now, and start thinking about LinkedIn as a landing page in the truest sense of world-class marketing, and think that when somebody sees your profile, they're going to have questions in their mind. So we have to tick those boxes and answer those questions, which actually brings me to my next question. And that is, you know, it's one thing to generate leads and it's one thing to have calls, but it's another entirely to have quality calls. I'm curious to know what the level of quality has been like with these decision makers and prospects that you're now talking to.
So I was able to fine tune it personally to book all the like calls that were like good, like great, like like it actually came down to reversing it on the amount of calls, saying, okay, we have to now sort through these. Some of them are legitimately calls I don't think I would have ever, well, calls that I would have wanted to have, but not got
Yeah.
otherwise. Um, and that comes all the way from the LinkedIn, from some initial LinkedIn ones,
Yeah.
to the follow-up emails. And actually, a lot of the most quality calls came from the follow-up emails where someone said, "Yep, I remember we connected on LinkedIn. Sorry, I haven't got back to you.
Yeah.
Let's set up something." And those are some of the best quality leads and calls. Actually, so
Oh,
follow-up works. Follow-up is good.
that makes me so happy because we put a lot of time into crafting those emails so that they would be on point. So
Yeah.
that's so good to hear. Cool. So why should somebody who's watching this, who might be another founder or CEO in an early stage or pre-scale company, why do you think they should take action in their business now instead of waiting?
Um, yeah. I mean, it's a big question. I guess look at this as like a Toastmasters, like a way to get out there and one, perfect your speaking skills, but your language of your business to a very, very broad audience, and also listen to what that audience is saying, reciprocating. And I think that helps, especially early stage, figure out how to position their business and find their market fit. Because regardless if you have the perfect product and a few people around you know you have the perfect product, you can talk to 100 people and get 100 different interpretations. And so learning how to, it's a numbers game. You talk to more and more people, you fine tune everything. And if you can start getting the same type of responses from across the whole crowd, I mean, you learn your business. You can't talk to this many people normally.
Yeah.
Not, it's very hard. It'd be very difficult. So, I mean, at the very, very least, if you want to understand your own business, you might as well throw yourself in and figure out what everybody coming in thinks of it, and let them tell you. I mean, you might not know your business then. And you might hear something that you don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really powerful. So if I understand what you're saying is you've also got greater clarity on product market fit and you know your market even better now.
Absolutely. I think there are some things that we wanted to do down the road, um, but this put us there already because some of the people that we talked about saw it available now. Like it was like, no, this could work for us. Like immediately. And I was like, okay, this is okay, great. And in other ways, they saw something I didn't. And I mean, if it's applicable, it's applicable. There were so many different and very odd like interpretations, but it's really good to hear those things from
Yeah.
people.
And so valuable too, because you're not investing in resources or product or feature development that you thought you should have, or now you realize you had features that might not have been as valuable to the market without talking to all those people. So like, that's I just love that so much, because one of the mistakes we see so much, and we've talked about this in early stage SaaS companies, is they build a thing that they think the market wants without validating it, and they burn all this time and money. And it's so heartbreaking to see that, because in most cases they didn't have to. They already had something that was great and it wasn't necessary. So I'm so glad you shared that so people could hear that.
Yeah, we're that company. We have a pretty broad offering because we built a lot of things we thought people wanted, and it was until they came in and told us then we started moving on those. But again, what some of these earlier calls that we talked to originally, I thought, okay, this is a great person who can refer me to somebody else or
Yeah.
refer me to maybe a partner of theirs. And as I was talking, they say, no, we could use you guys for ourselves. I remember thinking, oh, awesome. I did
Yeah.
not go into the call thinking this way. So that's like, yeah, you just don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. So what does your pipeline look like today? I'm curious to know how you feel about the future.
It's good. It's very good. It is being manicured, I guess is the best way to say it.
Yeah.
It constantly organizing it, reorganizing, having, going back, making sure they're, sometimes I don't remember that the leads actually came from this
Yep.
because they're like so far down in the pipeline that I like forgot. And then oh wow, that actually came from the third email or the second LinkedIn message.
Yep.
We've given out bunches of quotes. I mean, it's a very slow moving industry. It's enterprise software in an industry that's very old. But the fact that we have twice as many conversations now than prior is, I mean, that's without much effort,
Yeah.
except for talking to people. That's what we're supposed to be doing in the first place. So that's the only real effort. But bringing them in wasn't much at all. So the pipeline's awesome.
Cool. Great. Well, this is awesome, Josh. I really appreciate this. So if somebody watching this wants to learn more about you and learn more about Revenly, where can they find you?
So they can go to revenly.io, or they can go to my LinkedIn profile, which is linkedin.com/Josh Allen CA. Maybe you could put that on the board or in the comments.
Sure.
So yes, that word, yeah. But LinkedIn is good. It's funny again. Also, someone I connected with recontacted me today on LinkedIn already because they saw our new hire PR that we put out, and this
Yep.
is someone that so LinkedIn is actually something I'm using more and more and more. So that's the best place.
Awesome. Well, great. This has been, Josh, this has been terrific. Thank you for joining me today, and look forward to continuing to help you with your success.
You got it. Good luck, everybody.